Lou Mallozzi, I'm so pleased that you're here at the Art Institute to deliver a lecture for the Artists Connect series. Before we get started with the lecture and the public part of the program, we thought we'd take the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions about your work so that people who are looking at this after the fact will have a better idea of what it is you do. Your known quote is a sound artist. What does that mean to you?
My work as a sound artist is basically framed by the idea that sound is my material, and rather than taking a musical approach for a lot of my work, although I do music projects, what interests me in a lot of what is called sound art or audio art work is the way that sound can kind of refigure experience, refigure space, and call attention to its own representational possibilities and limitations. And in particular, I'm interested in this kind of tension between mediated experience and live experience. And I try to work with sound in that broad sort of territory in a number of different genres and formats. Do
you have anecdotal evidence for the different kinds of reception that these works encounter when they are
I do. I helped to curate a project that Hyde Park Art Center sponsored called Sound Canopy, and it had 2 iterations. And the second iteration was, the setup was to have loudspeakers in a public space in the Loop on a sidewalk space where there was a construction canopy at a building site, but over the public sidewalk. So people could still would be walking through, but they're sort of protected by this scaffolding canopy. And so loudspeakers were installed along the canopy, and then artists were asked to make works that would then be presented in this context. And the second time we did it, we encountered ongoing vandalism of the project in that wires were constantly being cut. It happened 3 or 4 or 5 times, to the extent that we basically said, you know, we're just going to have to stop it. It's not going to work in this site. Obviously, someone is coming here, you know, at night, you know, when no one's around, and figuring out a way to get to this these cables.
On the other hand, you had a work installed in Millennium Park recently that was rapturously received by all different kinds of people.
Yeah, I think though that again it's about context. Like the idea of having a space like Millennium Park or the Pritzker Pavilion in particular, which is an outdoor publicly accessible space but is a presentation-like place. And it is the kind of place that one would go in order to hear something or see a concert and hear a concert or whatever. That's, I think, I think that's a different issue. I think it's definitely a different story. And I think what it means is that here's a site. This site is for artwork and music work. Come to this site. It's an invitational, and it's a very democratized situation in that respect. That space, although it is a large public space, and the piece we did there called Train Time was this very, you know, in some ways loud and kind of crazy sort of work, nonetheless was contextualized by where it was. It's very highly contextualized by that particular site. That's real different than, I think, putting something out on a street corner, you know, in a public space that's not typically an art space.
It's not a gallery. It's not a concert hall. It's something different. Lou Mallozzi, thank you so much for spending time today, and we look forward to your lecture.